Okay, I know it's late, but listen up, y'all. Listen up. You know how I've said for, 11 months that Republicans could stop this at any time if they wanted to, that Republicans in Congress have the most power of literally anybody in the federal government, that Congress has always been the strongest branch of government, the most powerful branch of government, and that since Republicans have the majority there, Donald Trump is only able to do what he's doing. He's only able to enact his terrible plan, basically with their consent, with their support. And we've heard from a bunch of Republicans like Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins and others. They're like scared of him. They know that what he's doing is wrong, but they have to go along with it because they're scared. And I'm like, bitch, we're all scared. What do you think is happening to us, the American people? They're killing us in the streets. They're taking away our health care. I was at an Indivisible meeting earlier this evening, and shout out to Marcia, our leader, because she said, it should be pretty clear to everybody in this country now that the regime is willing to kill you. They're willing to starve you. They're willing to take away your health care. You don't understand that in 2026, that the regime is perfectly fine with starving you, with denying you access to medical care, and with literally shooting you in the street. Then wake the fuck up. So, we are all scared, and yet we're organizing and we're resisting. So what is the excuse of Republicans in Congress? Lisa Murkowski. And I've said, okay, too many people act like, oh, I've got a Republican elected. They're never going to be pressured. They're never going to listen to me. No, they want you to think that you don't have any power over them so that you will stop pressuring them, so that you will stop leveraging your power as their constituent. So, I do say, oh, I'm sorry. I know you've got Ted Cruz. I know you've got Josh Hawley. I know you've got James Comer, fucking Jim Jordan. And it can seem like they're untouchable. Yeah, that's because they want you to stop hounding their asses so that they can go along and be complicit with fascism. They have to fear you more than they fear Donald Trump. And we've got to be all over them like a dog with a bone. And right now, in this moment, there is huge public opposition to ICE because obviously ICE are a bunch of lawless thugs murdering Americans in the streets, right? Inflicting a reign of terror, using tens of billions of our taxpayer dollars to do it. Tens of billions of our taxpayer dollars that Republicans gave them. Republicans gave them that money. Republicans are the ones who have emboldened and funded ICE. Republicans are the ones who are consciously making the choice not to check Donald Trump, not to impeach him, not to exercise any of their power. They're doing it on purpose. They're fucking collaborators. And they don't want you to call them out on it. They don't want to hear from their constituents. They want to pretend that they are untouchable. And that's simply not true. And for some Republicans, I guess they maybe still have a tiny bit of a shred of conscience. And they're pretty distressed at what they're seeing, what they're hearing from Greg Bovino, who basically got demoted and removed from his position today. And Kristi Noem is also kind of, her position as DHS secretary is also imperiled. Democrats are calling for her to be impeached. Articles of impeachment have been drafted against her. And Republicans are not, first of all, they don't like Kristi Noem. They don't like her. But second of all, they're like, she's real bad. She called Alex Preddy a domestic terrorist. She's just barfing up whatever Stephen Miller tells her to say in front of the podium, in front of the press. She's not thinking about how that's going to go over. We've all seen the footage. Ice Barbie, we are all aware that Alex Preddy was an innocent man who was absolutely being a good Samaritan. He was a legal observer, being a good Samaritan, protecting a woman who was being assaulted by ICE. He did nothing wrong. Kristi Noem lied through her teeth, and Republicans saw that. They saw her lie through her teeth. They saw the American people say, oh, fuck no, that is not what happened. Do not gaslight us. And Republicans now, they're a little bit scared. They're a lot bit scared. They're now in a position where they are still scared of Donald Trump, but they're also starting to get real scared of us. This is a moment where we have leverage. This is a moment where we need to be on the horn every day with our Republican electeds. Make appointments. Go meet with their staff. Go meet with their staff and express your concern. As a 2A loving American, you're real worried about the erosion of the Second Amendment that you are seeing from Kristi Noem and Greg Bovino. You're deeply concerned that Stephen Miller is the one running this country and not Donald Trump. You don't have to tell your Republican electeds who you voted for. Just say, I'm your constituent, gravely concerned about what I'm seeing ICE do in Minnesota. Okay, and that brings me to the reason for this video. So hang on. I gotta sit up. I gotta go find my glasses here. Okay. New piece out in the Politico this evening that may interest you. Okay, sitting up now. Oh, old and stiff. Okay, this piece is by Jonathan Martin, and it came out earlier today in the Politico. ICE shootings are freaking out the GOP. They're all afraid to tell Trump. Some lawmakers see the administration as squandering their strongest issues. After all, Donald Trump got elected on immigration. He got elected on being like, I'm going to kick all those immigrants out of this country. It's going to make America safer. It's going to make America a better place, more secure, right? Because that's what authoritarians say. This was Donald Trump's strongest issue. And now a majority of Americans want to abolish ICE. In the span of a few short days, all of Donald Trump, Stephen Miller's authoritarian expansion in Minneapolis has blown up in their faces. And Republicans they're freaking out about it. I'm just going to read a little bit of this piece here by Jonathan Martin. To cover the Republican Party in the age of President Donald Trump requires a grasp of cryptology because of the unflinching personal loyalty he demands and punishment he'll administer on public dissenters. Leading GOP officials speak in rhetorical code. And in the aftermath of the second killing by federal agents of a protester in Minnesota, there's been a stream of statements, comments, and sound bites from party lawmakers that beg for translation. But before we get to the private and public messages being transmitted, however, a word on what top Republicans actually believe about what has become a deepening crisis for the White House, based on my conversations over the last 2 days. They are concerned more protests to the bloodshed may beget additional incidents, have little faith in Secretary Kristi Noem, and from a raw political standpoint, worry the party has squandered the best issues it had when voters were otherwise frustrated with the cost of living, the border, and public order. Yeah, Trump has done fucked all three of those things for the Republicans. One veteran senator speaking on condition of anonymity told the author that immigration is for the GOP what healthcare is for Democrats, aka a home game. Yet with viral images of Americans being shot in broad daylight, replacing immigrants stampeding across the country's borders, that advantage has quickly dissipated. So what are Republican elected officials doing to address what could prove to be calamitous for the country and their political fortunes? Let's be clear, they only care about the second. To date, it's the usual approach, y'all. They plead with Trump and his advisors in private, calm tensions, as a handful did over this past weekend. However, most officials hope one of their colleagues can do that work so they don't have to play the heavy. You can talk to them, or can you talk to him for us? Are phrases I don't need access to text chains to know are being relayed between top Republicans in Congress. They're all chicken shit cowards. They're all afraid of getting primaried by him. They're all afraid of getting called out by him. When lawmakers do reach Trump, the dialogue is similar to those private messages he posted last week from European leaders eager to get him off the Greenland fetish. Start with praise and flattery before moving to the heart of the matter. There's a whole lot of hope among Republican officials, mostly that they don't have to go public with their true feelings around what ICE is doing, because if they wait for a few days, the president will consume so much media coverage, he'll recognize the depth of the crisis. And it does seem like Trump, he had this phone call with Walz earlier, Governor Walz. It does seem like he's conceding a little bit. He's backing off. He knows he's fucking losing. The first sign of the shift emerged Sunday night in an interview with the Wall Street Journal's Josh Dawsey. Trump declined to say the officer who killed Alex Preddy had done the right thing and pronounced, quote, "We're reviewing everything and we will come out with a determination," end quote. That came, it barely requires noting, all of 1 day after Trump had justified the killing, and his lieutenants did as well. Even starker terms, right? They called Alex an assassin. They called Alex a domestic terrorist. Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem did that. By this morning, Donald Trump had taken steps to marginalize Kristi Noem and also basically pull Greg Bovino and put in Tom Homan. The sound you hear is the president once again sawing off the limb after his loyalists climbed out on it with what credibility they have in tow. This all begs the question of why, if the president is so responsive to the press narrative, more in his party don't speak out in ways that could help shape his story. Similarly, they are, but you have to know how to decipher their language. The president can't fail, he can only be failed, which means Republicans blame Trump advisors rather than risk angering the president himself. He is a deal maker, and he's getting bad advice right now, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt said on CNN Sunday. Donald Trump's not art of the deal. They gotta flatter his ego, right? Fragile narcissist. You gotta blow smoke up his ass. It's never his fault. It's always the fault of somebody, right? Narcissists always have to externalize their own faults, their own failings, their own deficits, and put them on other people. They can never self-reflect, and they definitely cannot in any way accept anything that is a criticism of them. Stretching even further was Senator Thom Tillis, a master student of the Blame Advisors Not Trump School. Any administration official who rushes to judgment and tries to shut down an investigation before it begins are doing an incredible disservice to the nation and to President Trump's legacy. Tillis is only looking to help the president and secure his legacy, you see. They're just helping him out. We're helping you out, Donald. We're definitely not criticizing you, even though underneath they're like, this fucking buffoon is running the country into the ground. He's destroying the Republican Party, but they go along with it. They go along with it because they fear him at this point in time more than they fear their constituents, which is why it is so important that we continue to push and shift the balance of power. We have to make them recalculate. The only reason they're freaking out and having these like polite tiptoeing, we fear that this might not be good for you. Let's make sure that we're making moves that help you, sir. They're only doing that because we are all pissed off and we're putting pressure on them. Their hesitancy to engage with Trump is so severe because they're a bunch of pussy bitches. Their hesitancy is so severe that it takes tremendous public pressure for them to even be going this far. So we have to keep it up. We have to keep pushing. We have to help push them over that threshold. They have to fear us more than they fear him. And they should, because we are 340 million people. And Donald Trump is one ailing, frail, sundowning narcissist with dementia. In a recent interview, he couldn't even remember what Alzheimer's was called. Anyway, in another television interview, James Comer of Kentucky, God, y'all in Kentucky, James Comer is I know you know he's a piece of work. He deployed that I'm only thinking out loud here approach of trying to get through to Trump and his aides, rather than say, hell yes, we should yank federal immigration officials from Minnesota and end this fiasco. Comer tried to say it this way on Fox. Again, they're speaking to an audience of one. They aren't speaking to their constituents when they're doing these interviews, y'all. They are speaking to an audience of one, Donald Trump. How pathetic, how emasculated you must feel, James Comer. How do you look at yourself in the mirror? Comer said, if I were President Trump, I would almost think, okay, if the mayor and the governor are going to put our ICE officials in harm's way and there's a chance of losing more, innocent lives or whatever, then maybe go to another city and let the people of Minneapolis decide, do we want to continue to have all these illegals? Right. By the way, every other city in the United States, James Comer just said ICE's reign of terror should be brought to your city because they're failing in their propaganda war in Minneapolis and Minnesotans are resisting en masse and this is backfiring for the regime. So maybe they should just tuck tail and run away and try this shit somewhere else where maybe people will fold, will give in, will lay down and let ICE roll over them. That's not going to happen in any American city, James Comer. I don't see you offering up Louisville or Lexington. I don't see you offering up anywhere in Kentucky. Why? Because this is disastrous and terrible, but you're afraid of Donald Trump. You're afraid of Donald Trump. And this is real bad. It's bad for you politically. It is devastatingly bad for your party. And maybe you have a tiny shred of a conscience somewhere in there that is just like feeling like this ain't so good. But you continue, James, to just play just asking questions. And then back to the article here, there's the Senate sandwich, not the shit sandwich, the Senate sandwich. Deliver the meat of the message, or at least a palatable version of it. But in between, to be sure, paragraphs. As I have often said, I support the Border Patrol, ICE, and the critical work that they do to enforce our laws, said Senator David McCormick, Republican of Pennsylvania. Irresponsible rhetoric and a lack of cooperation from Minnesota's politicians are fueling a dangerous situation. Then came the news delivered with the perfuming cover of a right-coded affinity group. I also agree with the NRA and others. We need a full investigation into the tragedy in Minneapolis. We need all of the facts. There's the appeal. There's the appeal to authority. It's not me really who's saying this, President Trump. It's me just agreeing with the NRA and with others. Nebulous others that maybe Kristi Noem is not handling this right. Then came his conclusion. We must enforce our laws in a way that protects the public while maintaining its trust. This gives our law enforcement officers the best chance to succeed in their difficult mission. Lastly, there's that old reliable for politicians of all stripes. Calls for hearings and an independent investigation. Not coincidentally, one of the first Republicans to take this tack was Senator Bill Cassidy. Remember, the doctor who voted to confirm RFK Jr. and now regrets it because he's pro-vaccine and he's watching RFK Jr. destroy the public health of the American people. But you did that anyway, didn't you, Senator Cassidy? You did it anyway because you got to go along with what Donald Trump wants, even when you know in your heart of hearts it's wrong. You do it anyway because y'all are spineless cowards. Y'all have no moral fortitude whatsoever. So don't forget that Cassidy voted to impeach Donald Trump back in 2021, and Donald Trump has held on to that. He holds a grudge forever, and so he's decided to put a primary challenger out against Cassidy, which is weird to me that Republicans still fear that, because Trump-endorsed candidates did real bad in 2025. So Cassidy did go further than most of his colleagues because he's like, all right, well, I'm already fucked when it comes to my primary. He said, the credibility of ICE and DHS are at stake. Fork found in kitchen, my dude. Fork found in kitchen, beating Cassidy to the punch, and in a sign of how politics on immigration have shifted because of these killings, their murders. The House Homeland Security Committee Chair Andrew Garbarino requested ICE officials testify before his panel. Whoa, investigations. Congress has an important responsibility to ensure the safety of law enforcement and the people they serve and protect, said Garbarino, by way of announcing his turn toward, like, he's now like pro oversight all of a sudden, after they all gave ICE tens of billions of dollars and were like, have at them, do whatever you want to the American people, here's a blank check, basically. Now he's like, wait a minute, maybe we need some oversight for the first time. Let's be clear here, none of the Republicans mentioned Alex Preddy nor Renee Good by name. But to me, I read this article and I was like, oh, okay, this is a time where we are seeing, despite all of their hesitancy and fearfulness around Donald Trump, we are seeing Republicans who are willing. They know that it is political, like it's a real bad scene for them, how poorly things are going for the regime in Minnesota. It reflects directly on Republicans because Republicans have funded all of this. Republicans have actively supported everything Donald Trump has done because they thought that was going to go well for them. Didn't study history too much, did they? Didn't bother to tap into their consciences too much, did they? Didn't bother to listen to any of the experts on authoritarianism, didn't bother to listen to their Democratic colleagues, their friends across the aisle at all. They were just like, no, let's do a white Christian nationalism. That's gonna go great. And we're just gonna let an addled old man, dementia Don, do whatever he wants, and that's gonna work out well for us. That's gonna be strategic. We're gonna let rat-fink Stephen Miller do whatever he wants, and that's going to go well for us because he cares about the future of the Republican Party and not just himself and his own sociopathic, crazy, genocidal, ideations. Anyway, my point is, we have got to be on the horn pressuring Republicans. This is a moment where they're, set to pop. They are starting to fracture in so many ways. They are feeling the pressure from us, and they are starting to be like, okay, I'm between a rock and a hard place. It's bad for me if I piss off the American people. It's bad for me if I continue to piss off the electorate. I don't want to piss off Donald Trump, but also, like, he's got the dwindles. He's kind of circling the drain. The next guy up is JD Vance. This is all a bad scene for us in so many ways. So who should we listen to? How can we redeem ourselves? How can we be rats fleeing the sinking ship in the same successful way that Marjorie Taylor Greene has done without having to give up our cushy jobs in Congress? Okay, start doing your fucking job in Congress. Start doing your job and check Donald Trump. Impeach him, remove him, invoke the 25th Amendment. Just start exercising your powers. Do your fucking job as outlined by the Constitution. So that's where we all come into play, right? That's where we come in. We've got power here, y'all. We have power. We have to use it. Don't listen to them when they say, you don't have any power. I can't be influenced by you. They absolutely can't be. What is happening now is because of mass public outrage. When we have the numbers and we have consistent, sustained pressure against them, their loyalty to Donald Trump does not extend beyond whether it is politically expedient for them. They don't have true loyalty to him. Most of them don't at all. When they feel that the people have abandoned Donald Trump, they're not hanging on with him. They don't want to go down with that ship. So keep the pressure up. Keep the pressure up. This is a moment where tides are turning. Things are shifting, and we have to be there. We have to be there to push. That's our job.